Okay, welcome everybody to the February 19th, 2025 regularly scheduled meeting of the Planning Board at 5 p.m. This meeting will be live broadcast on Channel 8 and live streaming through the town website at www.eastham-ma.gov. I am supposed to ask, is anybody in the audience doing their own recording, either video at this time? And I assume not, so we will go to the agenda. At this point, I'm going to call case number PB 2024-13. This is for 46 Bow Road, rear as shown on map 7, parcel 482. This is continued from January 15th, 2025. Brian and Brianna Seppala, owner and applicant, seek site plan approval of residential pursuant to Eastham zoning bylaws, section 7.4, residential lot intensity, and section 10.3, site plan approval residential, to construct a new dwelling unit. And I believe we're no longer attaching the existing single family home, to create a new single family home with a proposed site coverage of, Paul, the notice says 4,547. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the original legal notice. So you
We'll
don't need
going.
to. Yeah.
All right, I'll just finish it up. On a lot containing 87,745 square feet, where the site coverage ratio exceeds 3,000 square feet. Good evening.
Mr. Kaufman, good evening. This is Ben Zender, and I'm here on behalf of Brian and Brianna Seppala, who are sitting to the left of me when facing forward towards the Diaz. This is a matter that's been heard twice before by the planning board. Actually, I think 3 times before by the planning board. The applicants have gone back, and after listening to the board and some concerns by the abutters, have redesigned the project to reduce the site coverage and the scope of the project. It still involves removing the existing single-family residences on the property. That's going to be removed. The new structure is a single integrated single-family 5-bedroom dwelling. It has total site coverage of 3,857 square feet, of which 2,631 square feet are on the first floor, 1,226 square feet are on the second floor. There is also, not counting towards site coverage, there's a 1,890 square foot basement, finished basement. There's a farmer's porch of 345 square feet. And then there's some area behind the eaves on the second floor that we've not counted towards site coverage. So given the size of the lot at 87,000 square feet of land and change, and given the low percentage of site coverage that we've come in at 4.4%, and given the, I think, great attention to detail that Brian and Brianna have given this project in terms of how it's designed to minimize scale, minimize massing, to address both the site concerns and design concerns that are set forth in the bylaw, that this is a project that is ready for approval of residential site plan review. We'll answer any questions you have, but I'll leave my comments there, Mr. Kaufman.
Okay, you mentioned that it is a finished basement. Did I hear that?
Oh, I don't think, actually, I'm sorry, I spoke ahead of my clients. They haven't presented any designs for the basement.
Okay, so at this point, it's vacant.
We have not presented designs for the basement, but in any event, it wouldn't be counted towards site coverage for the project.
Okay. This obviously has had its, shall we say, an excited discussion and debate on previous times. I wish to first open the comments to the planning board members and then to the public. I will start by opening it. Now, I cannot see the whole board, so the closest person to Paul will start there.
No, I'll pass. No.
It's like law school, I'll pass.
All right, next.
I have two questions, 2 issues. First of all, is the basement finished or unfinished? And does that count towards site coverage? And then also, if they could, if you could articulate in what ways the geometry of the house has changed since last you presented it.
Mr. Zender?
Yeah, that's going to take me a second, Mr. Chairman. to pull the plans. I think I can do it in visual terms. It might be a little harder for me to describe geometry of the house in non-visual terms, but I'll pull those out while we talk.
Brian, the site coverage, the basements do not count towards site coverage, finished or unfinished. Either way, it doesn't.
Maybe the members might have some more questions to address to us while I look for those plans.
Okay, Brian, that was part of your question. What was the next part?
Well, the geometry of the house, and in what ways has it changed since, you last presented it in January to, the presentation today?
Well, it might be easier for me. Is the application available on screen? Or do we have?
Yeah.
I mean, I can certainly
we
hold
bring
the
the meeting
plans up.
packet up.
I can show the.
Because certainly we asked for changes last time, and I don't know that they've been, I just want to.
Well, it's a completely different house, and so it's been reduced in size from 4,200 square, 4,700 square feet down to 3,800 square feet. They've redesigned the whole house, so I can go elevation by elevation for the board if you'd like. I mean, I'm happy to do that. It would be easier maybe if I walked up to the board and showed them the plans.
I don't know, what do you think?
Up to you, Brian.
Yeah, if you say it's reduced from 4,800 square feet to
Bear with me one
37.
moment, I'll give you that number
38.
exactly.
What's that?
The application shows that it's 38 and for 3,857 square feet.
Yes.
Now, does that include the farmer's porch? Because that's the,
It does not. The farmer's porch under your bylaw is not included towards site coverage.
is that correct, Paul? It's the farmer's.
That's correct. Yeah. We have the plans on the screen if you like.
The current plan.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I can show the board the prior plans. I mean, if the board's looking for a design review, and hold on, let me just answer the question on the number for the member first. The site coverage, the total site coverage of the last presentation was 5,179 square feet.
Mhm.
It consisted of 2,995 square feet on the first floor and 2,184 square feet on the second floor for 5,179. And, this is the front elevation of the house. I'm not sure if I can see it that far away, if your members can see it.
Yeah, and,
Sort of.
and so it was basically a reduction of,
It's a reduction of 5,179 minus 3,875. I'll do it for you.
What, 1,200 or something, 12, 1,300?
1322.
Yeah, it's about 1,300 square feet.
Yeah.
It's a
I
reduction.
have no further questions, Chairman.
Okay, next.
I appreciate that the parties have reduced the size of this. I don't think it really addresses any of the problems that the neighborhood residents have about this project. I, for one, I don't think it should be built. Every single room has a king-size bed. You have places for like 8 cars or more. I'm sorry, it's just not, it's not good for the neighborhood. It's not the character of the neighborhood. And the way that you have, every single bedroom has a full bathroom. This is meant to be rented. This is not for a house or a family. That's my opinion, okay? And I'm just against it on the sheer size of in scope of what it could become. And I know these residents have been there for a long, long time. You have a single dirt road and you're gonna bring all this traffic and everything down there, I'm sorry, I just don't think it's right for this neighborhood. That's all for me, Dan.
Okay, next.
Thank you. I'm going to sort of paraphrase what you just heard, that first of all, the project has changed considerably since it was first brought in here. And that I credit you for. We're now down to 3,800 square feet. There's a house considerably smaller than was originally planned with a duplex and then to two separate structures and then a single structure, and now we're where we are. So I think that that message has been received, and I can certainly appreciate that. What I'm not seeing, though, and I'm not hearing from the presentation, is similar to what was just mentioned. There's been a number of concerns that the board has had for the last 2 meetings that we've been here, and those issues have yet to be addressed. One is it's a very narrow driveway to get from the main part of that neighborhood back to where this is, single lane at best. And during the summer months, which I assume is when this property is going to be used more readily, you've got the 5 bedrooms, the 5 bathrooms. Clearly, it is going to be a rental, which by itself is not an issue. It's that it's going to be a lot of volume going through there. And I'm sure that's the intent of it. But when I take a look at how narrow the road is, I think during the summertime, whether it's kids, grandkids, whatever, that are out there, the bicycles and so forth, there are safety concerns that have not been addressed. That's been raised every meeting, and it has not been addressed. Another similar thing related to that are noise concerns. Again, there's the traffic coming and going. There's presumably at least 10 people, if not more, that would be in there with given the size and the structure of the house. Coming and going back and forth to the store, whatever they're doing, they're enjoying their vacations there. The pool in the back and so forth. I don't know what's been suggested. Nothing's been suggested as far as I know. What thoughts have been through your heads in terms of noise mitigation? Nothing I've heard. Another issue was in terms of some abutters that the property itself does not have any direct access to the local beaches. And there's been a lot of concern expressed that guests at this house would trespass over a butter's property to get to the beach. People can post signs and do that sort of thing, but my fear is that that's going to become the responsibility of the abutters to monitor that. And I don't see why their lives should be upended or affected in any way. That responsibility to prevent that would fall on the owners of this property. And I haven't heard anything as to how that particular concern is going to be addressed. And while my hat's off to you for the work that you've done to get the house down to the size that it is, it's still considerably larger what's in the neighborhood, but at some point we have to understand the fact that it's a large lot, so it's allowable. But it's the use of the property that has everyone concerned, and I think the specific concerns that people have raised have not been addressed. And I think that is still problematic for me. But that's all from me.
Okay, next.
Dan, everyone here has had their say. There's just people on Zoom.
Yeah, let's go to the members
got
of the
some
board.
folks. Still got some members
Yeah.
online.
That's what I was
That's-
meaning.
Oh,
Let's do that.
Dan, I'll go next. Dan, it's
Sure.
Michelle. So I concur with my colleagues, especially all of Kevin's list that he talked about. I actually went back out to the property and I probably spent about 45 minutes just sitting on the property and sort of seeing the amount of traffic that comes and goes. And granted, we're in the month of February and there isn't as much traffic or anything as there is in the summer. I'm trying to figure out how to make this be a yes. And I can't get there for a lot of the reasons that have just been talked about. There are properties not far away that are, 1 bathroom properties that have multiple people coming and staying there. So maybe 2 or 3 cars at a time. And I can only imagine a place with 5 bedrooms and 5 bathrooms, plus an additional half bathroom, and how many people may end up being there at any one point in time, with 5 parking spaces plus a garage. And when I was there, there were probably 4 or 5 cars that came in and out, and at no time can 2 cars pass at the same time each other. So I really struggle with this, and I can't support it in that particular neighborhood. And yes, if you cast a wider net around the neighborhood, there are other houses that are larger than the ones that the abutters live in, but it's a very tight community in that one section. And with it, as Kevin just said, with the pool in the back and everything else, I can't imagine that the volume, the noise, the lighting, and the traffic isn't going to severely adversely affect the area. So those are my comments.
Thank you. Next.
Yeah, Dan, it's Rob. I have to echo the rest of the board, especially when it comes to the amount of traffic that area can handle. It barely handles the houses that they are now on a dirt road, especially during the summer. And to think that you're going to be adding a minimum of 5 cars, but even with the turnaround area, you could add 2 more there, and you've got the garage, and just the fact of people coming and going, not to mention, God forbid, you have to have an emergency vehicle come down there with any type of traffic going on. I do appreciate the fact that they went back to the drawing board 3 times and did cut it down considerably, but they've utilized every square foot, and it's just seems to me as if too many people at one time to handle in that neighborhood.
Okay. Next. Is there anybody else on Zoom?
Not on the board, no.
Okay. I will begin my comments. There's no question in my mind. I will take the applicant's word that this is an application for a single family home. And I will not be approving a site plan for a single family home with 8 parking spaces, period. I, in the spirit of cooperation, would attempt, if the applicant wishes, where I would come up with a series of findings of fact and a proposed approval, but it will specifically limit the parking significantly. And I'm thinking perhaps down to 4. There is absolutely no reason for the turnaround near the existing right-of-way. You turn around at the house. There's no reason to back away from the house 3/4 of the way down the driveway and then turn around to go straight out. That makes no sense to me whatsoever. So my thinking is we eliminate the turnaround. My thinking is that we put 3 outdoor spaces up by the house and 1 space, which is the garage inside the house. And we craft an approval and let it go to vote. And whether it passes or not, I cannot predict. But that's my thinking at the moment. And I will tell the applicant that's what I'm thinking. So having said all that, I do believe we have an obligation to allow the public to speak. This is a new building, albeit that it's smaller. And if there's anybody in the audience that would like to speak on this application at this time, please come forward, identify yourself, and make your comments.
Hi, this is John Heron. I'm at 30 Bow Road. I'm in a butter to 46 Bow Road rear. And so some of the neighbors have asked me to speak holistically on the subject, so I'm going to do that. Our position is that we do not agree with the new submission. The changes that the town made as they were looking at their bylaws was to make it so that in part that we wouldn't have the kind of submission that we have here. And so what we're looking at is that it still does not fit within the neighborhood. That here, the issues that we have with the proposal is that the square footage, except for 1 home, is double the size of all of the other homes in the neighborhood. As you've already called out, there's 5.5 baths. There's 5 bedrooms. You've already identified that the fact that there's a parking for 8, vehicles. And so it's a very large project and it's expandable. And so, we've heard that they don't currently have plans to build out the basement. One of the things that was identified is there's no hatch. for the basement to, in order to get out of it on the plans, not that we saw. And
I'd
so,
like to correct one comment. We've never said we have no plans to build out the basement.
well, I'm sorry, I misunderstood
You
that.
did.
Okay. And so, but, so there's, if they are gonna build out the basement, then you have, over 5,000 square feet of livable space. And then if you take the other space that's there, which is the covered porch, the garage, and then the cookout area, now you're over 6,000 square feet. And so there's just a lot going on in this particular space. The year-round residents that are there are almost all retired. And so it's a slow pace, it is quiet, it is a place where people have their grandkids come, they ride their bikes, they go for walks. Everybody uses it recreationally. And so our concern is that this proposal is inconsistent with the neighborhood on a lot of different levels. So with that, I'm going to turn it over. There are other people here that would like to speak to different issues as well.
Hi, my name is Connie Betterton. I live at 52 Bow Road Rear. My husband, Chris Salati, and my daughter, Anna, weren't able to be here in person, but they are on the call. We agree with our neighbors' concerns and with yours. The fact that the house is out of character with the neighborhood, significantly larger. We also very much agree with the concerns we heard from the board about parking and traffic. We appreciate that this new plan changes many of the lights to down lighting, but just would note, for example, most of the houses in our neighborhood have 4 or maybe 5, maybe 6 external lights. This house has 14. So even with down lighting, we're just talking about, a very, very different scale. We just also would want to emphasize the hope that if this project does get built, there will continue to keep as much of the property natural tree cover as possible. And then we would also want to work with them on landscaping. Somebody mentioned the noise issues. So we would want to talk about some landscaping to mitigate noise from the pool and from the driveway. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mary Goodyear. I'm along with Tom Fellers. We are co-trustees of the Josephine Fellers Realty Trust, and we represent 30 other family shareholders here tonight. As a family, we've managed to keep our 34 acres in the family, and we've worked hard during that time to keep it in a primarily undeveloped state to support the forest and wildlife ecology of the area. Our forest not only benefits our family's interests, but our neighbors and surrounding community as well. The addition of a house the size that is being considered here and a swimming pool will surely have a negative effect on the wildlife. And also, especially considering how much of the land is going to have to be cleared for the swimming pool. People are not going to want to have a swimming pool in the middle of the forest or the trees that are there currently. They're going to want to cut trees to let in the sunlight and also to eliminate how much tree debris is falling into the pool. We do appreciate the effort that was taken to research more environmentally and neighborly friendly lighting. However, is it really necessary to have 14 lights? Again, we're also very concerned about folks using our road and pathways and also our stairways to access the beach. And not only ours, but I know that the folks on Turnip Field Road also have that same concern. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Peter Burns, on 85 Bow Road. I think you should think about what's going to happen if they do have this. They talk about lawn areas. And when you have a lawn, you have to water it. So they're probably going to have an automatic watering system. I have that in my house. And it's beautiful lawn, but you have to mow it every 7 to 10 days. So now we're going to have a landscaper come in to do the, for the lawn. And the other issue it's going to be quote rental. When people rent a house and then the people move, you're going to have new people coming in, and then you're going to have the cleaning crew come in and change everything. So there's even more activity is what it's creating, as opposed to just, the people that are there. There's an awful lot more involved in that. And the other thing, there's certain things on the plans that just don't make any sense. One, there's no mention of a pool house on those plans. It used to be, they were going to do the old garage was going to go to a pool house, but where's the pool filters, the pool heaters? That's not mentioned. Then the other thing that gets a little strange, by the septic area, I don't know what the purpose of like 6 white pine trees are doing there. Are they just putting things on the plan to look like they're doing something, but it makes absolutely no sense. Anyway, I've said enough, I think. So thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Anyone else? Got some folks
yeah.
on line, I think, Dan.
Okay.
I may not.
Any butters online who want to speak?
Muted? Because. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Wayne Hastings, 20 Bow Road. Pretty much echo everything that everybody else has said. I just want to say that the house is too large. It doesn't fit into our neighborhood. It's just something completely different than what we have in the neighborhood. The traffic, as mentioned, is a big issue. The road going into that Bow Road rear is only about 10 to 12 feet wide. It's a dirt road. If you're going to have 8 to 10 cars at that house, you're going to have a lot of traffic going back and forth, as mentioned already. 5 bedrooms, 5.5 baths. I mean, that doesn't come close to what our houses are in our neighborhood. That's half of it. My house is half the size of the first floor of this house. I have 7 lights. I counted 15 lights, but everybody's saying 14, either way. So, everything just points to a party house and an Airbnb or some type of rental. It's going to be continual traffic back and forth, changeovers. It just doesn't work in our neighborhood. It's not our type of neighborhood. We don't have rentals in our neighborhood. As John has pointed out, most of us are retirees. I've lived there 20 years. I've seen my granddaughter ride her bike, learn how to ride her bike there. Pat Flannery across the street, her grandkids learned to ride on that street. That'll all go away if this house goes in there. We won't have that option of having a nice recreational street going forward. What else have I got? I think that's it. The square footage, I do have I guess Paul Lag answered the question, but in terms of the definition of site coverage, I understood it differently in terms of um, the farmer's porch. If the farmer's porch was over 200 square feet, you would count it. Just like a shed, if the shed is over 200 square feet, you count it. But I guess it's different because of the wording in the definition. So that's something I was just wanted to bring up. I think that's it for me. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Anybody else? Ben, do you have anything you want to say before we perhaps close the hearing?
Yeah, just a couple of comments. One, the applicant has a right, without coming to this board, to build a house with 3,000 square feet of site coverage, exclusive of basements, farmers' porches, sheds under 200 square feet. They have a right to build 8 bedrooms worth of septic system, or 13 with an IA. You know, all of that has nothing to do with site plan review. So to the extent that this is a use question, I don't think that denying this project avoids any of the concerns that the board is raising, which aren't expressed in your bylaw. So we're talking about an increase of roughly 875 square feet over the threshold for review for an 87,000 square foot lot. You could put that same 3,000 square foot house with a basement and a farmer's porch on a 21,000 square foot lot in this town. So when you look at the bylaw, the word size doesn't appear in this bylaw. It talks about scale and proportion, relational scale and proportion. So I'm listening to a series of concerns by members, which I've listed here. Whether or not people in the house might trespass on other property off-site. Nobody has a civil right to trespass or a criminal right to trespass. Right? So denying an application based on the fact that somebody might trespass on somebody else's property, I think is so far outside the 4 corners of this bylaw that I would suggest that all of you members, especially the new ones, read your bylaw. Talk to your town council. Talk to your council and your chair, who's been here a long time, about what it is about this bylaw that you're regulating. Because I always tell boards this, and I hate to have to say it, but sometimes I have to say it. When we come in front of this board, we have to meet every requirement that's in this bylaw. We have to give Natasha 10 copies of a plan. We have to give you every number. We have to give you exterior wall, site coverage. We have to have an engineer go out and identify mean ground elevation. We have to do all of this. That's our responsibility. But the converse responsibility is when an applicant comes in and presents an application for review by this board, you have to stay within the 4 corners of the bylaw when you review the project. You can't come in and say, we're concerned that someone's going to be noisy in this house. I defy you to look at this bylaw and identify where it says that you are addressing noise concerns. Special permits and zoning board, absolutely. You're identifying direct access to beaches and trespass. I defy you to look for that in the bylaw. You're saying you're concerned about rentals. I defy you to look at your bylaw and identify where in this bylaw it says that you can review a project based on the proposed use of the property. So you have an obligation. Every one of you raised your hand and stood in the town clerk's office and said, I'm going to apply the bylaw. I'm going to apply the zoning bylaw. And what I've heard so far, other than the phrase, it's too big, I heard that. But I didn't hear any member say that that the property negatively impacts existing native vegetation, that it doesn't relate harmoniously to terrain and to the use, scale, and proportions of existing and proposed buildings, other than it's too big. That it doesn't avoid impact on steep slopes, floods, or floodplains, that it's affecting unique or significant environmental resources. I haven't heard any of that so far from this board. And finally, when you talk about traffic off-site, this is not subdivision control. This is not a review of a preliminary or definitive subdivision plan, where the board does look at the safety of access coming into a piece of property. The standard for this bylaw is the proposed site plan maximizes the convenience and safety of vehicular and pedestrian movement within the site, and in relationship to adjacent ways. It doesn't say do adjacent ways provide adequate access to a piece of property. So your limit to this, and the only comment I've heard from a board member, from Mr. Copeland, and I'm a little disappointed in this comment, Mr. Copeland, is that you've asked the applicant to remove a proposed turn area, which is what this board always asks for, so that when emergency vehicles come into a property, they have the ability to turn and get out. That was put into this plan specifically to address that concern of maximizing the convenience within the site. That's the only suggestion we've had. Parking. The reason that we put parking on plans, and this board has dealt with this extensively in the past, and many of your members aren't familiar with this because you weren't here, is the board wants to make sure that people coming into sites are not either backing directly into roads, or there's not enough parking so they'll be forced to park in the roads. And we see this. We see it out on the water all the time. They have 2 or 3 spaces, people can't fit, they have a party, people are on the road. To tell an applicant that you're gonna deny an application because they have too much parking flies in the face of what you're here to do, which is to make sure that people can get into a site and park their cars safely, and that they're not gonna provide a problem for the roads. So I'm a little unclear here as to, other than the phrase that it's too big, what the stated basis is for denial of the project at this point. All I would ask is that if you're going to deny the project, we're gonna ask for a vote, that you make sure that you very clearly get down all these concerns that I just heard, so that the record accurately reflects that you're gonna turn down site plan review because you're worried someone's gonna trespass, or that you're worried that there's gonna be noise, or that you're worried that, that, you know, the road itself going in isn't sufficient, because I don't think there's a basis here for the denial. I think when an applicant works as hard as Brian and Brianna have worked with their engineers and their architects, to bring in a project at 3,875 square feet on 87,000 square feet of land, regardless of what the neighbors think, this is a project that meets all of the requirements of your bylaw. And I think, and I don't say this to you often, and those of you that have been here for a long time, you've never heard me say this to you. I think you're constrained to approve it. You're at a point right now where this applicant has presented an application which exactly meets the things that you're looking at for this bylaw. And I appreciate you letting me go. Thank you.
Okay, at this point, I suggest we take baby steps. Is there a motion to close the public hearing for case number PB 2024-13?
So
I could-
moved.
Sorry, I just want to interject, just so make sure everyone understands, for new members. Closing the public hearing doesn't end the whole process. It just means that the board's not going to accept any more comments from the public. You can still deliberate, you still have all the rest of the work to do to get to the decision, but it's just, so I guess, just want to make sure everyone understood that part of it, the mechanics.
So we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I will second it. Is there any discussion on this motion to close the public hearing? Okay, I will poll the board. So starting with Paul, since I can't see the whole board, let's go down the line.
Can I vote on
A motion is on the floor, is
I'm not-
seconded,
You're not seeing.
it?
Starting with Brian.
starting with Brian.
Are we voting on?
Closing the
Closing
public hearing.
Closing the hearing.
Okay, Dave,
Aye.
I can't see the next one.
It's Kevin. Aye.
Okay, let's go to the video and the zoom ins.
Michelle, I.
Rob,
Okay.
I.
Anybody else zooming? Chair votes aye. Okay, now we have several options available to us. We can attempt to craft findings, or we can refer it to Paul to come up with a set of findings that reflects our comments and the applicant's comments and come back next month. We are not obligated to adopt findings tonight, nor are we obligated to either deny or approve the application tonight. Paul, do you need time to craft some findings and conditions of approval?
Well, yes. So, but what I would say is, we can certainly craft some draft language based on what we heard, but basically now the public hearing's closed. the board, I mean, we have to articulate what the concerns are. As Mr. Zender, I correctly pointed out, we have to stay within the confines of the bylaw. I know the board has been referencing the size of the structure. I think the work that has to be done is to frame that in terms of the languages in the bylaw. So, you know, my take is I think you're framing this really trying to get at the massing and the scale and proportion. We use size kind of as a catch-all, but we can come back with some language, but really the board has to, I guess what I'm asking is I want to make sure that we understand what the board's real concerns are and that we articulate that, because what gets put into the findings, that's the whole support system for the decision. So in the event that the applicant appeal, let's just play it out. If the board denies this application, and I want to come back to that for a second, or you approve it with certain conditions, we want to make sure that the supporting language is rooted into the bylaw. I do want to point out the nature of site plan review is it's not discretionary, meaning the board really can't say no to this unless the board identifies that the applicant has failed to provide enough information for you to make a decision, or that we've identified a legitimate public health or public safety issue. Those are really the only issues with site plan review that the board can just say no. So the task is we kind of have to get to yes. The tool that the board has to do that is the conditions. So we have to, so I guess I'm saying I don't recommend that you deny this permit. What you should do is find a way to get to yes by identifying the issues of concern, utilizing the languages in the bylaw, and the board can impose conditions that address those concerns. The term in the regulations is reasonable conditions. Reasonable is a subjective term, but I have always advised this board to put the conditions in that the board feels are reasonable, and then it's up to the applicant whether they want to agree with that and go with it, or they can appeal. But that brings us back to the strength of the appeal. The defense of the appeal relies on how well we can articulate the issues related to the bylaw language. So I know I rambled on a bit, but I hope that makes sense. So, and I'm happy
Okay.
to answer any questions on the process of that, or if I wasn't unclear.
Can I ask a question
Sure.
as the alternate? And we're talking about section 7.4 and 10.3, right? Okay,
That's it?
yes.
Okay. Board members, I am willing to go one of two ways. I'm willing to push this off for another month. Or actually, I am willing to attempt to craft findings of fact and conditions that could be voted on. And Mr. Zender, I'm going to ask you whether you have a preference to that.
Well, first of all, Chair, I do, and here's why. Because look, Brian and Brianna have worked very hard at this project over a number of months. This is their livelihood and this is their real estate. So to push this off another month, to ask the town planner to come up with findings that would survive an appeal, in light of the stated concerns that the board members have made very clear right now, I think creates a problematic record. And I can assure you on appeal, this tape is going to be part of the evidence. So I would ask Mr. Koppelman that, as you've offered, if you can frame a set of conditions that you can offer to the board that would, in your mind, move towards an approval, I would very much like you to do that.
Board members, do you want me to attempt to try to create, I'm going to start with findings of facts. I have given this significant thought. I have written some drafts. I am prepared to present it to you. You can vote it up or vote it down, depending on what you think of it at the end. Candidly, I agree with a lot of Mr. Zender's comments on what we can and cannot do. And so it's the pleasure of the board. You want me to attempt it? I will. And I'll pull the board to ask them that.
Dan, what's the alternative?
The alternative is if we push it off a month and let Paul create a series of, like he does in every other application, a series of findings of facts, which he would modify based on what we can modify with respect to staying within the bylaw. My personal opinion, and I'll just state it now, we're down to one main issue, and that's the traffic and the parking and the limits of the existing road that serves this property. So I will tell you now, my findings of facts will focus on that issue. So what's your pleasure?
So, Mr. Chair, if I could,
Yeah,
in the staff report, we've identified the findings. If there's, I guess this is what we're trying to figure out is if the board members feel there are other findings that have not been covered in the staff report, or if you feel that other conditions need to be added into this staff report so that the board can get to a decision, which I think you're obligated to get to yes. Again, it's whether you want to put conditions to try to shape this project further. Identifying those, that's the crux of this. We need to identify what that is. It's a little tough to wordsmith this stuff on the spot, so I guess I'm saying the board has the choice to identify these things tonight, and we can come back with some cleaner language, and then you could hold the vote. But I guess this depends, I don't know the extent to which the board feels like they want to go further into this or not, so. But you have the findings, you have the proposed conditions. I guess it's just a matter of if you have additional things and how detailed that is, whether you want to do this now on the spot or not.
Do we have any kind of a landscape plan as far as screening and so forth?
There was landscape
There is.
plan submitted.
Related to what Dave said, two of the abutting neighbors addressed specific issues of, one was White Pine, Mr. Peter, and then the lady who abutted also addressed working with the applicant for come up with vegetative or something. I'm not exactly sure what you said, but it related to the landscaping. And I think that's a key part of this puzzle.
And so I guess I'll just add, when you're thinking about these conditions, in order to shape this project to whatever the board feels would be an approval project, we're talking about, it should be specific conditions. This component of the architectural plan needs to be adjusted. This needs to be moved. These additional plants need to be whatever it is, combination of things, those need to be identified specifically. So again, this all goes to shaping the project to a place where the board feels they could approve it by mitigating the problems that you've identified.
so I will again ask the board, are you in a position tonight to iron out the details you're concerned with, staying within the guidelines of the bylaws? Or would you prefer to adjourn till the next month, have your concerns shared with the town planner, have him create a modified set of findings and a modified set of conditions of approval?
Mr. Chairman, can I be heard on that?
Yes.
Okay, look, the dynamic here right now is what you're doing is you're suggesting that we ask the town planner to go back and provide a basis for denial of this application.
No,
No, well,
absolutely not.
Well, let me finish, Mr. Kaufman. Asking the town planner to go back and create a new basis for a decision without giving him specific requests and listening to us about specific conditioning just puts us back here a month from now in the same position we're in now. if we're gonna go back and ask the town planner to revise this, I would ask that the board work with us right now to identify, let's look at the landscaping plan. Let's look at the design plan. Let's look at the conditioning of the road. I don't think that we're gonna come back in a month with more knowledge than we have now. So we're here, we paid our money. We'd like to get through this process and get some forward movement on this. And if we do need to go back and do something else before you can vote, we're happy to do that if we think that it's constructive. But I don't want to just turn the lights off now and go home and not give the town planner sufficient information to provide you with what you need to vote on this project.
Okay, I started this entire conversation with asking the board if they wanted me to attempt to start some additional finding. Let's just start with the findings of facts, not.
But, Dan, if I could, I know we're sort of not answering the question that's been asked a few times. I'll just weigh in with my opinion if that's acceptable.
Sure, absolutely.
We do try in all cases that I've been on, trying to get to yes, and we have placed various conditions on projects that may be lighting, they may be landscaping, they may be any number of things. There's a lot of concern that the board shares on this project. If we're going to get to yes, I think we're going to need the time to pass along our suggestions to the town planner that are consistent with the bylaw that hopefully will get us to yes. And just thoughts I have kicking around in my head, I don't think are going to be an undue burden on the applicant. But I think that there's a lot of work to be done here. I would suggest that maybe we will have some new knowledge because there may be some discussions back and forth, our own research, whatever it may be, as to come up with ways or suggestions or conditions that could get us to yes and address some of the concerns that the board has and potentially that the neighbors have. But I think if we try to bang it out tonight, we could be here a long time, which doesn't bother me, but I'm not sure if we're going to have all the information at our fingertips to come up with a fair and all-encompassing conclusions.
Okay, with that said, no two board members should discuss this amongst themselves after we leave this hearing. Any concerns you have, you relate directly to Paul. I do not want any conversations between board members when there isn't a public hearing being conducted. So, with that said.
Mr. Chairman, if I could be heard on that again, please.
Yes, sure, go ahead.
Okay, so what you're suggesting is that we continue this meeting tonight for a month. Board members communicate independently with Mr. Legg. He hears the concerns. He tries to frame some set of conditions based on that. We come here, you then present them to us. We have to consider them, and then you ask us to revise a plan. We come back a month after that?
Well, I don't know how you can possibly do anything less. I don't know how there's no way. It seems to me that the board members are not prepared tonight to come up with a finite list of items. I know, one of my items is going to be the parking, but they have their own issues, landscaping and other things, lighting and shading and noise. So the answer is, yeah, I don't see how we can come up with the list tonight to give you a full and fair evaluation on what you have to come back with. I don't see it being available to us.
Well, Mr. Kaufman, I heard you say that you had come into this meeting with a set of findings that you had prepared and that you already were concerned about the road. I heard Mr. Gatlin say that he has 2 or 3 ideas already. Look, we're here. We give you the information. We expect you to do the work and to give us your feedback. We expect that. We're sitting here. I'm getting paid $450 an hour to sit here. You're now telling me we're going 2 more cycles about this. Typically, I sit at this table and I listen to you. And Mr. Kaufman comes in, he knows what he wants. He knows he wants the turnaround. He knows he wants this. Other members know what they want. If you can't sit here tonight and tell me, I'm looking for more screening, I'm looking for more parking, I'm looking for some signage, I'm looking for this or that. If you can't tell me tonight, what do you want, to go back a month and just think about it and then come back and tell me a month from now?
So do I understand?
Let's do it.
Do I understand you to say we can verbally go through all of the items that we have on our minds. And you will come back next month with a revised plan reflecting those? Is that where you're at?
No, what I'm saying is if you will tell me what your concerns are now, we will go back and we will talk about whether or not, A, we want to try to work with it. You know, for example, if you tell me you want a traffic light at the end of Bow Road, I'm going to say no. But typically, even through the process, members give us feedback. And you're saying, well, why don't we wait a month and then give you feedback? I'm willing to believe that every one of you, as you sit here tonight, you know what your concerns are about the traffic. You know what your concerns are about screening. You know about this stuff. You can give us some information instead of just telling us we're going to come back in a month. I'd like to hear what your list is, Mr. Kaufman. I'd like to hear what your list is, Mr. Gallup, Mr. Hobbs, any of you. You've heard from the neighbors, you've heard from us. I'd like to hear what the list is. You owe us that.
Paul, I'm gonna put it to you. Is what Mr. Zender requesting reasonable?
Yes, I think, to be honest, I think we should have this discussion at the meeting. We don't have to come up with the final wording, but at least getting the concerns out so that, because otherwise, to be honest, if I don't know exactly what each board member's concerns are or what you propose to mitigate them, I'm not gonna accurately reflect next month what you want to see, and we'll be back to this. I mean, so this is the job, shaping the project and getting into the details. All I'm saying is we don't have to have, if the board's not comfortable, we don't have to have the final wording and everything, but I would appreciate if we kind of got into the details so we can come back, and if we are going to continue this, we'll be a lot further along than we would be.
Paul, do we have the ability to listen to the neighborhood and make a decision based on that?
You can certainly take into account all the comments you've heard, but
I mean, either we can say, no, because this is not the character of the neighborhood, or we can't. And so which is it?
Well, what I was gonna say is, you can take into account those comments.
Right.
You're still gonna have to filter it through your own viewpoint of what you believe the character of that neighborhood is. But it also, you have to filter out the things that are not pertinent to the bylaw. And so the use of this house, it's a single family home. It's not in the board's purview to take into account the impacts of the rental, whether it's going to be rented or not.
No, I
I
understand.
mean, and that's a lot of what the public comment was for. I mean, we all understand the nature of this sort of project, but we have to stick to the bylaw. So it's
Treat
it like it's a
it's not in the
single family.
bylaw that, because the neighborhood is single family, small houses with kids running around and all this kind of stuff. That is totally outside the realm of this.
What has been proposed is a single family home. The use of that is not within the bylaw language. So they have rental of residential properties is an allowed use in town right now. So that's what I'm trying to say. Kind of have to filter the impact on the neighborhood as it relates to just the design of the house, the design of the layout of the site, the access to the site. I do disagree with Mr. Zender that I think the language in the bylaw does give the board purview to look at the roadway and the traffic, but that's where this gets tricky. I mean, it's just gonna be frank. The way this is set up, it's very much looks like it will be a rental, and that is a different intensity of use, but that's not in the bylaw. So the board, you have to look at this as it's a single family home, residential use. I would advise the board to put conditions and shape this project to something that would reflect a normal standard use for a residential property, which is standard home ownership, rental use. for residential, which is not a commercial use.
Paul, it's Michelle. I have a question, 2 questions. A duplex still qualifies as a single family home?
Yeah, yes. A duplex isn't allowed use in the residential zone.
Okay. And are there different conditions that apply to a duplex that are more generous or not than a single family home that we should take into consideration?
No, well, I should say a duplex isn't allowed building type. It's not necessarily, it's still a residential use. It's a 2-family building. There
So
is
it's not a single family home, or it is?
Yeah, I'm just trying to, it's not a different, it's still a residential use, but duplexes are permitted in the residential zone. And there is no, the site coverage criteria would be applied the same way as a single family home.
I would add, this is not a duplex application.
Right, correct.
Paul, question.
The
One of the,
paperwork, it says it is.
Sorry, can I jump in, Michelle? This is Jackie. So when we give the staff reports, we need to put the original legal notice
Okay.
onto the staff report. So that's the original legal notice from the first hearing, right?
Okay.
I want to add in here, as you think about your process, you do have 10 proposed findings of fact that are based on the bylaw and that are your criteria. And so there's information for you on your staff report. It's in bold. With, having looked at the plan, you're free to disagree with those, to amend those, but you have a framework already in place for you that the staff has constructed that you can shape yourself around. And Michelle, if it's helpful, the third finding of fact does lay out sort of the pathway that has led you all here with each sort of the basis for each proposal, the change that happened, and the dates of those hearings. Okay, if that's helpful.
Paul, Paul, I have a question. One of the reasons I was am in favor of taking the next month to try to look at the conditions. For instance, traffic volume. I'd like something to be done for traffic volume to deal with that and the safety concerns. I do not have a specific proposal for it. I would see, if you have all of the answers on that, terrific. I suspect that's pushing the envelope on that. But there are other people who are employed by the town who deal with traffic and safety and may be able to answer some concerns and maybe make suggestions without getting specific to this case. So it's not like we're chatting about it, over coffee, but that may be able to come up with a solution would make me feel better about what's going on over there. And hopefully abutters and everyone else would take some comfort in that as well. I don't have those answers in my head. I cannot suggest to you or dictate to you what the language should be. The fact that I don't have that answer, I'd be upset if that condition was not included somehow. If there is no answer to it, then there is no answer to it. But I suspect that a little research might be helpful unless you have seen enough of these in the past and you have suggestions of your own to make it a little safer over there. I don't know. But if you see where I'm going on that, I don't know if we can get that done tonight. If we can, terrific. If not, we need some time to research it.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, I don't think I can give you any more information on that. I mean, I think this board is struggling to address a concern that is not in its purview, which is the potential use of this as a rental property and the intensity. If you look at this as what is in your purview, it's a single family home in a residential district. Now, if the board feels that 8 parking spaces for your typical single family home, which according to what the applicant has said is they're building a home that I believe that, correct me if I'm wrong, they're building it, they intend to sell it. So
True.
if you think 8 spaces are too many for a typical single family home, that's a finding you could make, and we could craft a condition that limits the amount of parking. I mean, I'm not going to be able to give you any detailed analysis about traffic use or park. I mean, we're trying to, and I understand the concern. I'm not, a month from now, I'm not going to be able to give you any other information to deal with that issue.
This brings to my mind, so there's 5 bedrooms, each of those bedrooms, and I'm not trying to nitpick the architect of your home or the use of it, but each of those bedrooms has 1 bath, and it looks like a sizable bath, and some of the bedrooms have wall-sized closets.
If I may, I'm not sure how that's relevant to the bylaw. I mean, modern design standards, the way people design houses now, they provide a bathroom for a bedroom.
Is that a
The
fact?
health code assumes, and your rental certification program assumes that a bedroom will service 2 people. That's the assumption that's made as part of the rental registration program. So I think it's not unreasonable for the board to assume that this is a 5-bedroom house could house 10 people. If it were put into the rental system, which Brian and Brianna have suggested they want to sell the house, but maybe it ends up there if it doesn't get sold right away, that the rental certificate would be for 10 people. So, I think that's safe to assume that maybe 5 cars. If you have a party, as we all do, hopefully, you have more than 5 cars on occasion. We hope that somebody is able to do that. But to address the traffic issue, I think conditioning the parking in some way, saying, look, we don't want any more than 5 spaces, for example, for 5 bedrooms, I think that's an appropriate condition. That's fine. I think it deals with what you need to deal with. You have to remember, we can't control the off-site road. We don't own it. We have an easement over it, which means we have a right to fill the potholes. We have a right to trim back the trees. We have a right to, reasonably enjoy that easement right. But we can't, for example, without going through some significant legal processes, try to widen the road, for example, or pave the road or things, which I'm not sure we want to do. But I think the members, Mr. Gatlin's suggestions about traffic are well placed. But I can tell you from my work with the Cape Cod Commission and everything else, and I tell you, we're not about to commission a traffic study for this project. There are no traffic counts on Bow Road. I can guarantee nobody's ever gone out there. Well, maybe somebody has, but it's unlikely, and put a counter down there and counted the traffic on Bow Road. And I can tell you furthermore, my experience is that you could bring 3 traffic experts from the area and they can't tell you more about Bow Road than you know from going down there and the member that went and sat there for 45 minutes, and certainly not more than the neighbors know. So, this applicant could build again an 8-bedroom, 3,000 square foot house with some smaller rooms. And again, these are red herrings. I like where we're going with this. I like the suggestion about traffic. I can't wait to hear from Mr. Compliment, but I think there's a set of conditions on this project, given what you have for a landscaping plan and given what, Jacqueline has presented to you. I think we have the information we need for you to review this and provide an appropriate approval. It's here. We just have to uncap our pens and do it.
Well, I'm going to take the bull by the horns. I spent the afternoon working on this, so I tried to do it nicely, but it didn't seem to go this way. I have a proposed change in the plan. I want to see, I don't know if maybe you can see this thing. Can anybody see that?
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm going to take it back. There's absolutely no reason to have a turnaround 2/3 the way back towards the road. The turnaround should be up at the top. So I'm going to suggest that you eliminate the turnaround. And up near the top where you say flowering dogwood, you're going to put a backup turnaround there. It's at the house. That's where you want to turn around. You don't want somebody driving backwards along a long driveway, almost 2/3 of the way out, and then turn around there and go front out. It doesn't make any sense to me.
That's
so
fine.
My suggestion is going to be that you eliminate the turnaround, that you reduce the 3 spaces to the west to 2 spaces. You put 1 space in front of the garage, and you have the 4th space, which is the garage itself. And the reason I'm doing that is for public safety, because the road that you access the property with is extremely limited and dangerous. And therefore, My recommendation is to reduce the parking to 4. I don't want to see 8 cars trying to get down that road to service this house. It makes absolutely no sense. And I believe the applicant's statement saying he's going to use it as a single family home. If he's going to use it as a single family home, he doesn't need 8 spaces. That's my statement. So if you want to know specifics on what I want, that's what I want. I don't have an issue with the size of the house. I don't have an issue with the bedrooms. I don't have an issue with virtually everything else except for landscaping, noise screening, and light screening, which I will defer to the other board members. But if you agree to do this, I would put it in the findings and I would put it in the conditions of approval. That's what I have to say.
We're fine with those. Mr. Kaufman, I think those are great suggestions. We're fine with those.
Okay, I'm done. Board members, pick it up.
Paul, do we have a right to insist that the homeowners repair the road to what it is today after they get through the construction?
Well, I think you don't have a right to the road. Well, I actually, if you don't mind,
I can
I
address
think
that,
it would
yeah.
be helpful for this board to understand what the access rights are and how that relates to the
They
road.
have an easement right from Bow Road over the intervening properties to get to their property. They have, and that carries with it a right to repair potholes and do stuff. It's not directly related to that, but there is an obligation to repair unusual damages. And if the board wants to make a condition that they'll repair any construction damage to the road within, 30 days or 60 days of completing construction, they're happy to do that. I think that's fine.
I'd like to make that a condition, Dan.
Fine.
Dan, I have just a question. When it comes to lighting, how is the lighting addressed by the pool, Ben? As far as like shielding it from the other abutter properties, if they're out there at night.
That's actually a very good question because one would presume that they want to light the pool at night. And you do have a sky glow effect. When you light a pool, the light goes up into the towards the atmosphere. So that is a very valid point, and the applicant should address how he's going to mitigate the pool lighting. Is he going to have it on a timer so it's going to go off at a certain hour? Is he going to attempt to shield it? I'm not going to shield it because it acts almost like a mirror going straight.
Well, that and the addition of the patio around it. I mean, for safety reasons, they're going to have it lit if people are out there at night. So I'm just concerned about the abutting property, and it was brought up about the actual wildlife in the area and stuff. So there is going to be some effect on it. I just want to make sure that it's not lit up. In addition to the 15 lights, something could be addressed to tone that lighting down, and certainly the pool addressed.
If I could address that, Mr. Kaufman.
Yes, please.
The lighting that's been proposed meets all of the town's lighting bylaws for downlit lighting, which means that the light is contained on site. I've just been informed by my client that they're happy to have a condition that the pool itself won't be lit after 10 p.m. at night, meaning, dusk to 10 p.m. The pool itself could be lit, but it won't be lit later on. So I think that's probably appropriate.
Okay.
And I hope, Mr. Young, I hope that answers your questions.
Yes, it does. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
So far, I think we're doing pretty well. Anybody else?
What kind of trees are going to be cut down to do this project?
Kind?
I should say diameter trees and the type of tree. Are there any legacy trees?
No.
Yeah, the lot is, it's, I think you all been out there. It's vegetated. There are not large trees there. They're maintaining, looking at the landscape plan. I don't know, Dave, do you have a landscape plan there in your package?
Yes, I do.
Okay, they're maintaining natural areas around the entire west side, a portion of the east side and the south side. So they're maintaining all those natural areas there anyways.
Where there is a statement that says lawn.
Well, it says natural area undisturbed. You can see the big pillowy lines around the three
I
sides of the
do
property.
see that, but I also see 2 areas which says lawn.
Yeah, they'll have lawns in the front and the rear of the house.
I don't really know what's there at the present time. I have been down there, believe it or not, but I don't remember, to be honest.
Yeah, me neither.
What kind of things are
It's
there?
mixed pine and oak, nothing over, I believe, 12 inches in diameter.
And where it says lawn right there, Dave, that's where the present house is, the old house that's being removed.
Okay. And you got permission recently for that, right?
We did, the historic commission approved the demolition.
Okay.
I guess this comes under landscaping. I'm trying to kill a few birds with one stone. Trying to address lighting, noise, and other things. I don't know what we're allowed to do in terms of, well, landscape in such a way that the type of trees or whatever can be placed and the nature of those trees be year round, but, or help at sound reduction, but requiring that, whether it's pines or whatever, be planted as sort of a barrier between the house and the pool area and the rest of the neighborhood. Related to that, and I'm not sure if this is even allowed, if it's helpful at all, I'm not a noise consultant, but the placement of berms that maybe the trees be planted in to try to, again, provide some barrier for noise as well as lighting, if those are installed. And lastly, again, it's landscaping, but can we require that a solid fence be installed over certain portions of the property? And again, I'm trying to address the concern about people wandering off onto the beach. I know it's not in the bylaw, but it's certainly a neighborly thing to consider. Trying to address these needs and being a friendly, helpful neighbor. Are those conditions that we could be adding in?
Mr. Chairman, if I could be heard on this.
Yeah.
The bylaw, again, the bylaw setback requirements for pre-existing old lots is 25 feet sideline, 30 feet front and rear. We're holding 234 feet in the front, 149 feet in the back, 58 feet on one sideline and 56 on the other sideline. So we're roughly running at least twice the setback requirements. Those are really what separate the properties. Berms can work. I've recently been informed that berms make it very difficult for vegetation to grow on the berms just because they're not protected as well. They have to go down further to get water. They're susceptible. I think, Brianna, do you want to build a fence? I mean, they're keeping this entire area undisturbed around the perimeters. So, again, somebody goes in and builds a 3,000 square foot house and puts a pool in the back. They're not doing any of this. So, we're happy to meet the requirements of the native mix. We're happy to locate or relocate trees according to, concerns that the members have, meaning screening that they're putting in. But this house got moved, 235 feet back from the road, and the pool is behind the house. It's on the other side of the house. So I don't see noise as a concern. I understand the board's concerns about how the house is going to be used and how it generates more noise in a single-family residence. But I can tell you, if this house is sold to a set of grandparents with 3 kids and 4 grandkids, it's going to be some noise, good noise. So, but we're happy to listen.
I do have a point, and I do appreciate, you all are the applicants, but you're not going to be living there long-term, and there are a bunch of people in the room and online that have lived there for 20 plus years. So while it's not in the bylaw, it do have a responsibility that's a little broader than that. And I do want to note the concern that one of the abutters brought up, a couple of them actually, about the lighting. And I think that just the sheer number of, yeah, we have the difference in square footage, the difference in lot size for sure at a, multiple. And then we have a difference in square footage at a multiple. And we have a difference in lighting volume at like a multiple. And I'm wondering if there's any findings of fact or any conditions we can put in to try to minimize the number of, I get that they're all down shielded, but the number of lights that are either motion detected and go on at various times with numbers of people coming at different times in the day and night. I know at night during this time of the year, it's very quiet and very, very dark. And any lights really are disturbing to some people. So I'm wondering if there's any additional consideration to be given to minimizing the number of lights on this property.
Through the chair, I mean, we're happy to look at it. I mean, just, I don't know if the members have the lighting plan in front of them, if they could look at this
Yep.
lighting plan. 14 sounds like a lot of lights. When you walk around a house and begin to look at where you're lighting, not a lot of lights. I mean, those 3 circles in the back where the proposed pool are about this big around. I'm gesturing about the size of a hockey puck. The down lights, so that people walking around the back of the pool don't trip and fall. 3 of those lights in the front are in the farmer's porch, right? So, I mean, Brian and Brianna have gone and they have literally dropped this down to the minimum number of lights they need to safely get people in and out of this house and around the pool. So, I think I heard one of the gentlemen say he had a house that the first floor was half the size, of the whole thing. I mean, that's a quarter the size of the project, and he said he had 7 lights around his house. So this is not, I don't see this as, I've seen plans with landscape plans where people have walkway lighting, they've got stairway lighting, they've got, task lighting around their houses. This is a plan where I asked them to go back and put the minimum number of lights they could to get people in and out of this house and around these pools safely. We could remove 1 light in the covered patio, but again, it's a covered patio. People aren't going to see that light. So, they've got 2 lights at the drive so that people can get out of their cars safely. Again, that's a downlit light about the size of a hockey puck. So, yeah, the covered patio is not what they're using it. So look, we're happy. If you want a condition that we remove 1 or 2 lights, we're happy to do that. But we still need people to be able to get out there and get out of their cars and walk up onto the porch and be safe. So, and again, all of these lights, they've all been spec'd out. We provided spec sheets to make sure we comply with the bylaw. To keep the light on site, keep it on site. So I don't agree with the statement that either there's a moral responsibility to do anything, although, people should be good neighbors, or that this isn't minimally responsive to the needs of the applicant and for the bylaw. So again, I hate to push back the member. I'm sorry. I hope it doesn't feel personal. I'm looking at this plan. I'm holding it up. We've got 3 hockey puck sized lights on the far side of the pool. You've got 3 lights spaced out along the entire area of the farmer's porch, downlit, covered by the farmer's porch. This is not a house that's going to look like it's about to take off into the atmosphere.
Again, just to answer, to answer your question, Michelle, the board can put conditions on the lighting.
And we're happy with those. If the board wants some conditions that, pool's not in use, turn the lights off. We're happy to have conditions on, lights that, or if you do or don't want motion sensors lights by the parking, we're happy with those conditions, how they're used. We're happy with that. So.
And could you describe the safety fence that goes around the pool? For the benefit of the neighbors if they're worried about such a thing?
Black aluminum fence, what, 4 feet tall?
It's got 54 inches.
54-inch tall, black aluminum,
Good.
stake fence.
I just wanted the neighbors to be aware that if there were toddlers in the neighborhood, that it is a requirement to fence the pool from a safety standpoint of wandering neighbors that come into the site and might be attracted to the pool. Okay. Anybody else?
All right, can I just check in for the record? Did you decide on a condition for lighting? So we need to keep track of them. Are you all
I
set?
would like to propose that, yeah.
But what would that be?
So I have in my notes, the suggestion that the pool will not be lit after 10 PM. Are you asking that be added as a condition?
I would say
Yes.
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 Okay, thanks for clarifying.
So can I ask a point of order?
The
So
Public, well, it's a point of order.
it's a point of order. So the
Well,
question
all right,
is,
it's up to the chair.
Candidly, I'm sorry, but the hearing is closed and we're not supposed to accept testimony after the hearing is closed.
it's not testimony, it's a point of order.
Well,
So
if you-
what I'm asking is that the decision that you have here has to be filed with the clerk, with the town clerk, is that correct?
Yes.
That's correct.
Yeah, and so how is that done? So is that done immediately after this meeting? Will it be done tomorrow? Or how does that work?
It's done after the vote of approval.
Okay,
So at the,
Sorry, after the board finishes its decision, the decision letter needs to be filed in 14 days.
okay,
And letter filed within 14 days, and there's an appeal period of
20 days, right. Yeah.
10 days.
So it's, the appeal period to the town is 10 days? Because the appeal period with the courts is 20 days. Is that correct? For zoning. Okay. All right. Great. Thank you.
Hey, Paul, I just wanted to add one more thing to the lighting piece, and that is, Mr. Zender, made mention of it too, to perhaps limit the number of motion centered censored lights on the driveway.
So is that it for everybody right now?
the applicants
would
are
you-
just discussing.
Yeah, through the
light.
chair and to the member, no, we're fine with the condition that there be no motion censored lights. The animals tend to set them off, so. If that's what the member's asking for, we're fine with
Yes.
that. Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Yep.
Okay, so Paul, they're gonna come back with the revision of the site plan with the items that we talked about, i.e. the reduction of parking and other issues. Would you be prepared, first of all, Mr. Zender, would you be prepared to bring that or send that in advance of next month's meeting?
Absolutely. Well, Mr. Chairman, first of all, I was hoping, and again, I'm hoping it's hope that the board would see fit to make the findings and approve it, subject to our providing a plan to staff showing reduction of the parking to the 4 spaces and movement of the turnaround up to where the flower and dogwood tree area is. I think those are the only treatments we're making. I'd rather not have to wait another month just to have the board look at that plan. I think Mr. Ladd can do that.
Well, board members, we have not in our possession the final site plan approval plan, and we won't have it until next month.
Well, you'll
Is
have
the-
it, I mean, you'll have it in a week. Mr. Cutman, we'll
right.
have this done immediately. I just don't want to have to wait another month for you to say, yeah, that's what I was looking for. I'm happy to, if you could send Mr. Ladd your sketch, he could transmit it to us and we'll incorporate that and make sure that the plan is consistent with what you're looking for.
But I don't want, Paul, I'm trying to decide whether you have everything you need now to revise the findings of fact and revise the standard conditions so that if we approve, well, no, we don't have the conditions all in order for the approval. I don't know how we can vote without a piece of paper saying what those standard conditions and findings of facts are going to be. So the vote can't happen until next month anyways.
Well, Mr. Cutman, I think you do have them. I think you have the entire document that staff prepared in front of you, and you've just discussed the additional conditions that I think Ms. O'Rourke has written down and can read back to you, as you do in every hearing. You can start with the document that you have right here. You can make your findings. You can add the special conditions that you've just discussed, and you can vote to approve this subject to our providing to staff a plan consistent with those changes that have been requested by the board.
Is that true, Paul?
I don't see this as different from any other hearing we've done over the last 10 years.
Paul, what do you think? You're the guy that's on the spot.
I think at this point, we're comfortable. We could proceed with that plan if the board is amenable to that. One thing I wanted to point out, so there's a condition about the roadway repair. I thought it was you were amenable to some sort of condition that any damage.
We'll restore the roadway we'll restore any damage caused by the
I'm
construction.
just trying to think, do we need a baseline of some photos or something, just so that we understand what the condition is prior to start of construction?
Yeah, we could do that. We can provide photographs.
Just so that everyone's on the same page about what's there now versus what.
Certainly, yeah. Yeah, I think
And
that's,
I'm saying that for the benefit of the folks that live on boat, just so that everyone can point to some damage that happened that clearly wasn't there. So I guess we need some extensive photos of the existing conditions.
yeah, we can do that.
Paul, how do we vote on findings of facts tonight without having them written in front of us? Everybody's locked up there.
All right, so you have the proposed findings of fact are in the staff report. Unless there are any additional findings that the board wanted to make based on tonight, we can add those. And then the conditions, again, I don't know that we have to read all the standard conditions, but we can read back for everyone's benefit the notes we took and add those for the additional conditions. And then we can fine tune them if we've missed anything.
Well, I can
Okay with
suggest changes to the findings of facts because I went through them this afternoon, and I believe we're all in agreement on them. So I can suggest that we have the following findings of facts 1 through 10, and you'll have to put in the number of abutters that have complained or supported this project. I don't have that in front of me. I will make condition number 11. The property is served by a single lane dirt road that has extreme limited capacity. Number 12, the proposal indicates a total of 8 parking spaces. The applicant has indicated that the project is for a single family house. The road cannot support the traffic for 8 cars. That's all I need to do now on conditions.
Sorry, did you mean those are additional findings?
No, those were findings. Yes, I'm sorry. Those were additional findings. Yes. And if the applicant doesn't have a problem with that, I don't know about the other items.
I don't have a problem with the findings, Mr. Kaufman, except we have agreed to reduce the parking, so I'm not sure that the finding that the 8 spaces is something that you need to put in there, but I'm happy to have it in there as long as we have an additional condition that will reduce the parking.
Yes, that's what I'm planning.
Okay, fine. Okay, thanks. So I think your findings are fine.
All right. So is there a motion to approve the findings of facts as originally written and modified with added conditions number 11 and 12 as read?
So moved.
Sorry, hold on, I gotta jump in here. Combining findings of fact and conditions, and those are 2 separate things and 2 separate
No,
votes.
no. This is just findings of fact.
Okay, so we gotta remove the word conditions for a minute here, and you're looking at your
There's
findings of fact.
no, we haven't done conditions yet.
I know, Dan, you used the word conditions, so that would mean we're voting.
Findings of fact. Only
Okay, great.
findings of fact. So is there a motion to approve the findings of facts as originally written with the addition of numbers 11 and 12 as read?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Brian?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Evan?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and I can't see the,
Rob, aye.
Michelle, aye.
is that it?
Yep.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve site plan approval for case number PB 2024-13, subject to the 9 standard conditions, and I'm going to add a number 10, which is the site plan approval is for a maximum permitted parking spaces of up to 4. The applicant will submit a revised plan indicating where the 3 exterior and 1 car garage spaces will be located, and this plan will serve as the approved plan. And number 11 is the planning board reserves the right to monitor the ongoing construction for compliance with the approved plan. So motion to approve site plan approval for case number.
Yeah.
We had more.
Okay. Oh,
Chair,
that's right.
so
You have the.
Could I
Yeah, put it
suggest,
to rest. Yes.
you have the standard is in the,
Yep.
in the plan, in the report. Applicants are fine with the standard conditions?
We are.
If Jackie doesn't mind, you got these down, we will reread
Perfect.
additional conditions, and I wanted to add in that the, what was it? Oh, the road.
The road maintenance. So I will draw my motion.
Okay. Now these are not in final form yet. You'll have to give me a little more time for that. But you had as additional conditions, in addition to Dan's proposal to move the driveway and limit the parking, or excuse me, the turnaround and limit the parking spaces, that the applicants will return Bow Road and Bow Road rear to their current conditions within 60 days of completed construction. You also, go ahead.
Sorry. I would recommend that would be prior to the issuance of a use and occupancy permit.
That's fine.
You want to mention the photos before?
We'll collect the evidence and. You have also proposed an additional condition, 2 about lighting. So the applicant agrees the pool will not be lit after 10 PM. And the applicant agrees that no motion censored lights will be used on the property. Okay. You also proposed a landscaping additional condition to include additional screening. You did not specify the type of tree, but additional screening that would provide year-round screening, which we would typically write as a native evergreen species, such as the white pine they're planning on using. So are you okay with a condition about a native?
We need some volume or amount or location for that. I mean.
Yep.
So a number of trees would be great.
Forward.
Number and species. would be good.
I'm at a loss to come up with either a number or the location. There's a number of considerations as certain trees grow so many feet wide and so many feet high. And they don't want to be too close together because as they grow, they'll crunch each other out.
So what is, let's identify the area that you're concerned. with screening.
I was
Is it
most
the pool?
concerned about the house and the pool where the activities can take place. And I don't think we need to screen noise of a garage or parking area or something like that, but certainly around the house, where the house is closest or most in line with the rest of the neighborhood. That would be the general area. I can't
Around-
tell you what mile marker it is or anything like that, but
Maybe
that's,
on the landscaping plan would be helpful if we could reference an area. The east or west.
I could suggest, if the board makes, I would suggest we would offer a condition that they'll plant 6 white pines with a minimum height of 5 feet in height, between the westerly sideline of the property and the west side of the house and pool.
the on the light, well, this is the lighting plan, but you've got the marks 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. Those always seem to correspond to the general area around the house and the pool. I don't know how many feet that is exactly. You have an actual distance what that would be?
36 roughly.
House is 35 feet in width, and then the pool looks like it's about, that pool area looks like it's about 40 feet in width. I
No.
can't quite tell. Right there, about the same as the house. Looks like about a 70-foot run, all told.
Okay,
Along
and
that
the trees
driveway.
we're considering grow roughly to what width?
I couldn't tell you that. I went to law school. I have no
Uh,
idea. You know, and again, we don't, look, we're happy to put some additional screening in there. We think that, you know, it's already, they're maintaining that entire vegetative buffer that's already there.
There is a buffer. I'm not disputing that. It's simply that in terms of lighting, every little bit helps. As far as noise is concerned, noise also goes up. There's nothing you can do about that, but a larger tree will at least help to muffle it.
Well, we can increase the number of trees. We're just looking for a number. We've offered 6, 5-foot white
Six.
pines.
5 foot being,
5 foot is the height at
And
installation.
installation.
okay, I'm just curious as how big they grow, which is my main point, but
Look, yeah, they grow big. You could put an arborvitae in there, but it's gonna take over. I mean, they just take over. So, so the white pine it's a good looking tree. I don't know if it's native or not. I have no idea, but it's attractive and it will absorb the sound.
when it comes to arborvitae's, I think they're ugly as sin, but they do a great job of making noises. But they do have a
Yeah.
limit to height, on that.
Might be help, so what they proposed at the rear of the property, those white pines, that's probably gonna be the same length. I mean, that would cover the same linear area roughly, give or take a tree. So if they're proposed, so those are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 white pines. Do you have did you spec out what those sizes would be?
Yeah, 5 foot. And I think
Those would be 5 foot, so 6 white pines at 5 foot high at installation.
And again, looking at this plan, I'm sorry, I'm not sure we need to screen the side of the house. I think we really need to screen the pool area. The house forms its own screen. So I think we should probably cluster those trees along the patio and pool area.
Not to split hairs here, but I think that when you've got whatever number of people at any point in the history of the house goes by, if there are gatherings and so forth, they're not going to not make noise until they get to the pool.
Fair enough.
They'll be saying, oh, whoever's are coming in the front door. It's all additional noise that the neighbors don't want to hear.
Sure.
So if 6 is a good number, then I'll go with the 6.
All right, that was the end of your proposed additional conditions.
Okay, is there a motion to approve? Residential site plan approval for case number PB 2024-13, subject to the standard conditions and the added conditions as read.
So moved.
I will
Dan,
second.
do we need to add that, the site plan changes will be, shown to Paul for review?
I put that in as number 8.
Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize.
Or I'm sorry, not number 8. What number is that? Yeah,
I'll second that.
yeah. That's number 10.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay. I will second it. Any discussion? All in favor, Brian,
Aye.
Dave,
Reluctantly, I.
Kevin?
Reluctantly, aye.
I can't see the,
It's Michelle and Rob.
Michelle.
Michelle, reluctantly, aye.
Okay, next.
Rob, aye.
Anybody else? Chair votes aye.
Thank you all for your time. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, moving right along, we're gonna have case number PB 2025-03.
Go back.
This is for 195 Campground Road, as shown on map 7, parcel 336. Cornelia Sittel, owner applicant, seeks site plan approval residential pursuant to zoning bylaw section 7.4 residential lot intensity and section 10.3 site plan approval residential to construct a 560 square foot addition on a lot between 10,000 square feet and 19,999 square feet where the proposed addition or expansion of an existing dwelling exceeds 2.5% of the lot area. Good evening.
Hi.
Good evening. My name is Peter McDonald and Cornelia Sittel is to my left, the owner. Cornelia wants to do I think it's a modest addition, about 560 square feet. It's a one-story addition. It's only 15 feet tall, but with a modest cupola, brings it up to 20 feet. And I think we have addressed some of the requirements of the bylaw with changing the form, the roofs, and creating a house that fits the neighborhood.
Okay, I have one item I'm going to, again, hopefully you can see it. I am seeking a K-turn on the west so that you don't have to back out from your new driveway onto Campground Road. You see the,
Yep.
yeah. Whoops.
So
I'm
It's
doing
on
it
the-
all the time.
it's on
so
the,
it's-
you want to kick it out to the west side.
Yes,
Yep.
Mhm.
so therefore they can back from where they park into that K and come out onto Campground Road going forward. Campground Road has enough traffic on it to warrant not backing out onto it. So this should happen.
Okay with that?
I'm doing it all the time, because there's cut a little hole in one of the arborvitae. So I can see out very well. So if it's if you think it's absolutely necessary, we can do it, but I don't have a problem, and I've been backing out for 10 years.
The standard Department of Transportation states that whenever you have the opportunity to turn around and go out forward on a public road, you should do it.
Okay, well,
So it is important,
Okay.
okay?
And
Yes,
I also think that that entrance should be cut back. Even if you're coming out, you can't see down
correct.
Campground Road.
Yeah,
And
they can clear it out.
you may do it all the time, but you're gonna have visitors that come there that don't do it all the time. And they're gonna take their life in their hand every single time they try to pull out.
I usually back them out,
Well,
but it's the arborvitae in the,
I'm sorry.
line
I
it.
mean, you need a line of sight, okay?
Yep.
Just because you do it all the time doesn't make it safe.
Yep.
And I think you need that line of sight.
Yeah, it's the two arborvitae that frame the driveway. They got very, very big. Yeah, so, yeah, okay, I'll replant them.
Very good. I will note that the Board of Health has approved this application, and in the Board of Health review, they do review the floor plans and they do review the septic system. And whether something is a bedroom or not is not in the purview of the planning board. It's just for public information. That happens at the Board of Health. Board members, any comments or questions for the applicant? Brian?
I have none.
Okay, Dave?
My only concern is that, with the, what do you call it here? The studio. I realize you have a 4-foot opening there, but some people are gonna say, well, it's just another bedroom.
Oh, no,
Uh,
that's an office.
Uh,
So
Please,
Wait,
Please let him finish.
Okay. I realize with a 4-foot opening, you can do it. We don't have the ability to object to it. All I'm saying is that some people are gonna say that it's gonna be another bedroom. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that you can't do it because you can do it. I just want to raise that point that some people will think that it's just gonna be another bedroom. And
Can I
since it's
clarify?
a 1-bedroom house, that's what it needs to stay as. And that's all I have to say.
Dave, can I answer that just to clarify my lifestyle a little bit, why it's not a bedroom? I'm single with a little dog. Just when I built the cottage and I was here 12 years ago and you guys gave me a variance to get a bedroom deed restriction. Peter, that was Peter's first mandate. When we started working on this, that I said it has to stay a 1-bedroom and I really don't need another bedroom. I would appreciate having a master bath when I have a couple of friends over for dinner or so. It would be nice if there was my current bathroom became a guest bath, and I would have a master bathroom.
No,
just
I
for
think that's
privacy.
great and that's wonderful.
And last year I got late last year I got approval to work now remotely. I work for a big software company in San Francisco.
And it's really a studio / office space. So it is for me, my lifestyle has not changed. There'll be one person, me, and a little doggy living at the house. That's all the same. And I don't suddenly am a party animal that will require 8 parking spots or something like that. Okay,
Fair
so.
Also, when you walk through a room to get to a bedroom, the room you walk through is not a bedroom, which is why the Board of Health is not going to have an issue with this.
I realize that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that some people are
Well,
gonna say that it's just another bedroom.
People could say all kinds of things.
That's exactly correct. And you have every right to do what you have on your plans here with no objections from me.
Okay, Kevin?
Just quick, my only concern has already been answered when the chair had mentioned it's already gone to the Board of Health and they've approved it, which is fine. I just have one silly question.
There's no such.
It's not a big house. If it meets your lifestyle, that's perfectly fine. This is total curiosity on my part. You say you have guests over for dinner or whatever. Where do you sit to eat? There's no dining room or even eat-in kitchen. It's a little, I mean, the kitchen's a small little thing. And I looked at this and I said, you know, if I was her, I'd take out the existing bath number 1 and put a dining room table there or something. But
Well, okay,
again, it's perfectly fine. I just
Out of
joking more than anything else, but.
So I'm not much of a cook. Also, I'm on calls very often in the evening with Japan and India. So yeah, I eat when I can. So there's that. And the second thing is right now, my big desk in the current studio space or that open space to the living room.
I was going to
that
guess that.
doubles as
That's what I was going to guess,
desk,
but
a painting studio and a dining room.
gotcha. No, I have no other questions.
Very good. Zoom people, I know Michelle, start there.
Yeah, I have no additional questions. Thank you.
Okay, any other Zoom people want to?
I have no other questions either, Dan.
Okay. Anybody in the audience want to speak on this? No?
Have an audience left.
Well, see, I'm not there, so I don't know. Okay, so, having nobody else that wants to speak, is there a motion to approve the findings of facts as written? Paul, were there any letters in favor or opposition?
I can speak it. There was one letter received from a butter, really issuing a concern, and it does have to do with bedroom count.
So there was one letter, I would say, that was in opposition and no letters received in support. Is that correct?
Sure. Yep.
Okay, is there a motion to approve findings of facts for case number PB 2024-25-03, subject to the standard conditions as read?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Brian?
Aye.
Dave?
All right.
Kevin?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
And who else do we have on Zoom?
Rob? Aye.
Rob? Anybody else? Chair votes aye. Okay,
Does Patty get a chance to
No.
vote?
Nope,
Why?
because
Well, you can still comment.
I have nothing to say.
I'm sorry. Okay. Okay,
Jam 6.
But since he's not here,
No, but they still have 6.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sorry.
What?
You, yeah, I was,
2, 3, 4, there's 6.
You can vote.
Patty
because of
can be
number-
seated on this to vote. 'Cause
well,
when-
let's have her do that.
All right. So I.
Very good. I'm just writing condition number 11 on the, bear with me a moment.
Right now it's feels like
You.
that, something like that.
Mhm.
He wants to put a place like that. So you can go back. So we can get, I don't know, to draw that.
Okay. Almost done. All righty. Okay, is there a motion to approve residential site plan approval for case number PB 2025-03, subject to the first 10 conditions, standard conditions? Number 11, a K-turn pad will be added to facilitate the turning of the cars to allow leaving the site without backing onto Campground Road. And number 12, clearing of existing vegetation will be performed to establish proper line of sight. Is there a motion to approve case residential site plan approval case number PB 2025 to the standard conditions and added conditions as read?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Dave? I'm
Aye.
sorry, Brian?
Aye.
Oh, we have the new one, right?
Yes,
So
Aye.
let's start with you.
okay. So I,
Okay, Brian,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Evan,
Aye.
and then we have Michelle,
Aye.
we have Rob,
Aye.
and chair votes aye. You're all set.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That went a lot quicker than the first.
You think?
Yes.
Okay, next item on the agenda is
Okay.
the review of the minutes from January 15th, 2025. Does anybody have any comments, corrections, or changes prior to the vote?
Nope.
I think they look pretty good. Is there a motion to approve them as written?
So moved.
Is there a second? I'll second it. All in favor? We can just say aye.
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 Paul, anything else?
Yeah, I got a few things. I know we're going long tonight, but we may have missed on the first case, the vote, the actual vote to approve the findings in the shuffle.
All right, it was all,
So we
everybody.
can just go back.
Yeah.
Now we know we got it. Motion to approve the findings and facts for case number PB 2024. Already established that everyone. Just want to make sure we got.
Moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Who are we missing? Aye.
Shall everyone votes aye?
Yes.
Okay, we just want to make sure we got that officially.
Sorry, did you do the minutes for the 21st as well? The joint regulatory work?
Oh, we have minutes of the 21st, yeah.
Do.
In your packet, on your
Right.
agenda,
They were.
But we didn't vote for, on that yet.
No, we didn't. Anybody have any change, excuse me, changes or corrections? If
Nope.
not, a motion to approve the minutes from the January 21st, 2025 meeting that was held at 3 p.m.
So moved.
I'll second. Any discussion? Let's start it from Paul. Or we can just say all aye. Aye,
Aye.
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 everybody?
Yep.
All right, Paul. Anything else?
Yeah, so just want to thank you all for coming to the workshop last month. We will have another, I'll go the schedule. So we're going to have two zoning articles. One is going to be the article at town meeting, the article to go over all of this the changes that we went over at the workshop, the commercial zoning district. We will also have a warrant article to amend the accessory dwelling unit, the ADU bylaw. The reason we're doing that is because the state has come up with new changes at the state level of how ADUs are regulated. And so there's some housekeeping and items, and there's a few substantive changes. I have hard copies. I'll give them to you, but folks at home, everything's on the planning board webpage to view and download. I was gonna go through all this, and I'm happy to do that, but I guess it's up to the board. I'm happy to go through and give you an overview of what the changes are. Otherwise, I have the strikeout version. You'll see what's coming in and out, but basically, the short summary is we need to make some adjustments to the definition of what an ADU is. It's not really too much change, but it will change the size to limit it to 900 square feet or half of the gross floor area of the principal dwelling, which will be slightly smaller than what we allow now. Probably the biggest change is that, and it's not really too much for us, but ADUs are going to be allowed by right. That's the change at the state level. So everyone has the right to add an ADU if they can meet the dimensional requirements, your setbacks, your site coverage, and septic and so forth. We allow that anyways now, except for in the Seashore District where it's required to have a special permit. And we only did that really because the Seashore has its own unique issues going on. But basically the change at the state level, we have to do away with that. So basically residential district, Seashore District, and the water protection overlay district, which is actually residential, and the groundwater, those are actually all residential. So that everything's allowed by right. There's a few changes kind of just to double check a few things for what the for site coverage and things like that. But again, I'll give everyone the strikeout. I know we're here late, so if you have any questions, you can always contact me. Happy to talk with you one-on-one about that. The upcoming schedule for the zoning changes. We will have a public workshop on February 26th at the library. It's going to be from 4 to 7, but the way we're going to run it is that we're going to run 2 sessions. First session will start at 4 to 5:30. And this is going to cover basically the same, it's going to be the same subject matter as the workshop, but we're going to condense it and make it, just more palatable to like general public. So we'll do 4 to 5. I'll have our presentation. We'll have a half hour for questions and answers. And then we'll run the same presentation at 5:30. So we're trying to give people more flexibility to get to this meeting so they could show up at 4 or 5:30 or somewhere in between. If they stay through, they'll get the whole thing. We're going to provide childcare services for kids 5 and up. Library staff and rec staff will be on hand to do that. We will have food, pizza, cookies, snacks, so forth. So we're trying to make sure we can make this available to a wider audience and especially parents. So that's a great thing. And Jackie's been instrumental in getting all that organized. And what else should we mention? Those are the big things. So that's the 26th. We're going to have our formal planning board public hearing on March 19th, which is our normal meeting date. But I reserved 4 o'clock start for that. So if everyone can be here at 4 o'clock, we'll do the public hearing on the commercial zoning and the ADU, and then we can roll into our regular meeting.
Right now, we didn't have any submissions. Nothing new, with no new planning board cases.
We're not at the dead. Oh, we're past it. All right. Oh, perfect. So really all we'll do is we'll have the public hearing at 4, and actually that gives us plenty of time
To do.
yeah, we can just, so that actually works out well. So that's the schedule. I guess the last thing, I know we're here late, I guess last thing is just kind of reflecting on the first case. I think the board did a good job shaping that project, and it's difficult to do. And I guess the only thing I want to say is, you know, we're here, staff's here to help the board. And any feedback, you know, board makeups changes, we get different personalities, different ways of doing things and thinking. So feedback is good for us so that we can be in a better position to kind of how the board operates or wants to operate. And just something to think about. And I would say if folks have any ideas, that would be a good topic to go over at a subsequent meeting and just kind of get all this out. So if there's things that we can improve on or do differently to help make it easier on the board to do its job, that's good feedback, whether it's just the staff report or whatever it might be. So there's always room for improvement. So I'll just throw that out there. If the board wants to take that up at a later date, we can have have a discussion about that. And finally, anytime that the board wants to have a refresher on the bylaws, any component of the bylaws, we can do that. We're happy to do that. And if there's confusion or anything about that, we can
I'm
always
so
do that.
new. I would love like an hour or so to just, because a lot of issues came up tonight. And it would be good to, for me anyway, to just know more about this.
We're always available to meet one-on-one, but we can do a group session too. So we'll just we can schedule that at some point in the near future, and we'll figure that out. So
Dan, when do you come back?
I'm back the beginning of May.
May? Jeez.
However, I also want to echo my gratitude and respect for fellow board members. We have tough cases. We're going to have more tough cases. And the way you have performed, in my opinion, is remarkable. So I appreciate each and every one of those board members that work on our cases. You really do a good job.
And I want to make sure that everyone knows, I can't remember who, I think I told this to you, but you know, Jackie has really taken the reins on working with the planning and zoning board. I'm not going anywhere, but I just want to make sure, you know, she's in charge. I'm trying to make her in charge. She's doing a remarkable job. So I'm trying not to step on her toes. I'm trying to be here for backup and when needed, but Jackie's really the point person, but we obviously work together in this on everything, but.
Well,
And you guys have been a great support to us, and I think you handled today well, and certainly I speak for myself, it was helpful. You know, I do think we need to stick with the bylaw. On the other hand, there were much larger issues here as well. And I admire my colleagues for speaking out and being honest too. So thanks.
okay, with that positive thought, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
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 See you next month, guys.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.